Welcome back to another TPM Tactical video. So today's video is going to be a bit of a tutorial on creating a basic conflict mission for Arma Reforger. Okay, so I've got Arma Reforger open here, running version 1.2.0.92, so the latest build as of July 22. Going to go into the workshop. We're going to look for a custom map to download. I've already tested before, so we're going to run with Barzan. Where are we? So Barzan remake right here. So if you don't already have it downloaded, you would click download. I've already got it here downloaded. So once you've downloaded your mission, your map that you want to create your conflict on, you need to close Reforger and then open Reforger tools. Once you have the workbench launcher open, we're going to add a project. We're going to create new project. So test conflict. Oh. Conflict mission. Still can't spell. There we go. Third time's charm. Click create. Once we're in, you can see here it's created your test conflict mission folder. I'm just going to go workbench and go save. And now I'm going to close it down. I like to just initially save it. I find it seems to run smoother once I've saved it and then hop back out. So Arma Reforger tools again, launch. And what I'm going to do now is add Barzan to the mission, the map mod that we're going to use, sorry, not the mission. If you don't already have it within, you haven't added it to your workbench launcher, so add project, add an existing project, navigate to the mod. So these are the mods that I have downloaded. Barzan. Double click on here and then double click on the add-on itself, or select it and then click to open. As I already have it within my workbench launcher, I'm going to right click on my test conflict mission, open with add-ons, going to search Barzan, already have it ticked, and then click open. As you can see here, it is now loaded the Barzan remake. Once we're in here, again, love to save it. Going to go into the workbench and go options. What we're going to do here is we're going to quickly add a dependency. So the plus, click the two little dots, and we're going to navigate to the actual mission itself, which I think I was already in. Correction, not the mission, the map. Where did it go? Barzan. Right here, Barzan remake. And then double click on the add-on. So now it's added in here as a dependency. So Arma Reforger obviously required, and then the dependent mod. Okay. Now it's saved. Sweet, what we're going to do from here, we're going to go into our test conflict mission folder. We're going to create 3 folders itself in here. Images, missions, where we're going to put the mission header, and we're going to create worlds. This is where we're going to actually save the mission we create into. Once we've done that, we're going to go into the world editor. In the world editor here, we're going to go file, load world. We're going to open up the map itself, the map mod. So we're not doing the combat ops that's already part of the actual mod itself, that being the map mod. We're going to do just the Barzan map remake.ent. Once that's loaded in, we have this default layout at the top left. Plus, as you can see, the map's already here. So what we're going to do now, in this default layer, you can see this has every single item that has been placed. So this particular tree is right here, all these different entities. So we don't want to muck around with any of those. Not that we can, because they are locked. What we're going to do now is we're going to go File, New World, and we're going to create a subscene. In the subscene is where we're going to add our actual mission and anything that's added on top of the actual map mod itself. Okay, so here we are. So here it is. It's unnamed at the moment. So file, save world as, going into our worlds folder, test, conflict, oh my gosh, conflict mission. It's called Barzan. There we go. Now it's saved here. What we now need to do is we need to create the actual managers, and what we're going to do is we're going to generate them using this plugins here. So plugins, and then in-game editor. No, not in-game editor. Where is it? Game mode setup. As you can see here, it's selected config or conf by default. There is other modes, so game master and the scenario framework. I highly recommend, if you're looking at anything related to scenario framework, check out Blackheart 6 videos. Anyway, so we've got the conflict selected here. Click next. Basically, it's saying it's going to scan the world for any managers that are currently in the world or not in the world. So we're going to scan the world. Sweet, it's telling you all these are required for this conflict game mode. So next. Awesome, we want to create all those entities, all those managers. It is now telling us that there is 3 different managers that need to be updated, that you will need to do some extra work to. So the SCR AI world, configured navigation mesh. So that's for the AI, where they're going to be able to move, walk, avoid trees, rocks, etc, etc. We're not going to really configure that because we don't need it. We're not going to set this up with AI. It's just going to be our PvP. Campaign faction, so make sure one faction is non-playable to use for the independent units. So that's the capture points. And a military base, so at least 2 military bases can be HQ parameter checked. That is a requirement. So next, we're going to create the header as well. And yes to all. So this has just jumped us back to the original window. Next and close, and this is our actual header, which we need to put in the information. So the name, author, and some other configurations down here. We'll do that at the end. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go back into the world editor. Here we are. As you can see on the left hand side, it's got the default managers that were created using that plugins game world setup. What I'm going to do now is I'm just for simplicity and keeping things organized, I'm going to rename this default layer. I'm going to call it alpha_manager. And I'm going to rechange that again and put managers. Okay, sweet. So right now we have our managers. So campaign faction manager. Like, I'm not going to go into detail on all these different managers. There's a lot in here, but as long as you have the USSR by default is playable, US is playable, and then the FIA is unplayable, you're good to go. And the 4th one here is civilian faction. I'm not going to go through any further of these components. I'm going to leave them as they are. Campaign loadout manager. Again, if you want to go through and muck around with changing the default loadouts, you can go through and do that. But we're going to leave that as it is. We're going to leave the campaign task manager. As you can see, this here is a conflict military base. For your SA, if you do select one of these managers or entity on the left hand side, if you press F, it will take you directly to it. So conflict military base, which is the actual HQs or capture points that you can capture throughout the game mode. The game mode campaign manager. In here, there is a ton of components you can go through and update, change to your liking. We're not going to go through all those. We're going to leave them mostly as default. The only one I'll show you really is the game mode manager. So in here, very important information. So number of capture point, correction control points. So that's how many you need to initiate the victory timer. So if you have that as 10, you need to have at least 10 of these control points on the map. How long it's going to take for the victory timer. So you're going to hold them for 300 seconds. What's that, like 5 minutes? and then going through, going through the regular income, how like per tick rate, HQ starting supplies, etc., etc. If you do change your factions to say you're using RHS, make sure this here represents the RHS key for their faction, whatever it is, RHS _ USAF or whatever it is. Okay, and then the same for Op4 in independent faction as well. Again, feel free to change these settings and the ones throughout the components. There's heaps of different ones: time of spawn point, time and weather, handler components. But anyway, perception manager over here on the left hand side is required by default, and the SCR AI world is only required if you're using AI. So I might just delete it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a couple other layers. Create a layer. So this is going to be B, Bravo, HQs. I'm going to create another layer, C. This is going to be capture points. Well, it's actually control points. Okay, so now I've got 3 other layers. Sorry, another one of these managers or entities you need is the map entity. I think it's in here by default though. Yep, so here you need this satellite background image and the map data, so that when you bring your map up, you can actually see where the spawn points are and what the map looks like. But that generally is a part of the world itself that's been created by the mod dev. Okay, what have I done here? Here we go. I'll read her. I thought I deleted something. Okay, here we go. I had map slop here, so it filtered out all my layers that I created. Okay, so what we're going to do now is right click on the BHQs. We're going to set as active. From here, I'm going to move this conflict military base into the Bravo HQ layers. This is just so that it keeps it nice and neat. It's easy to understand and read when you're editing and looking through it. Legend.Bravo, not Bravo 6, Blackheart 6. Okay, so this here is your conflict military base prefab. That is made up of these components down here, plus so these entities on the side here and these components. What we can see here is you've got the ambient patrol spawn point for FIA. I don't want any AI as a part of this. So what I'm going to do is actually search for the conflict military base in the resource browser. As you can see here, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to override. Or I could duplicate, depending on what I want to do. We'll just do override. So I'm going to override the settings for the default military base. And as you can see now, you have a little puzzle. Okay, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit prefab. Do we want to save changes? Yes. So now I'm in the prefab edit mode. And again, this is what the conflict military base is made up here on the left hand side. So I want to remove these two. So I'm simply going to select them and click delete. And now I'm going to save it. That's all I want to do currently in this prefab. I could go through here and set these settings now, but I'm just going to do it back in the editor, the world editor. So file, load world, or this here is the last one that you've saved, last world that you were in. Okay, sweet. So now if I expand over here on the left hand side, HQs, you can see that the AI spawns are now gone. From here, I'm going to move this spawn point, this conflict military base to a location I want to set up as a HQ. So right here. Once you move it, it's probably recommended to right click on it and then go to snap to ground. Moving your mouse and keyboard around too. So if you hold the right mouse button, WASD moves you around while holding the right mouse button. Holding the right mouse button down and using your scroller, moving your scroller forward will increase your speed, and then rolling it backwards will slow you down. Took me forever to figure that out, but anyway. Okay, so here is our HQ. What we're going to do now is over here on the right hand side, we're going to go through some of these components. So military base component. Because this is going to be our HQ, as we've set it up over here in our HQs layer, we need to have it can be HQ. And this doesn't matter if it's ticked or not, if you only have two HQs, one for OP4, one for Blue4, or US, USSR. So I'm going to untick that. However, you could have multiple HQs that can be HQs set around the map, and if this was ticked here, when they're not in use, they will be disabled. I'm going to change the base name, so MOB, but standing for main operating base. And that's all I'm going to change in here. Again, I'm just quickly going over some of the base settings that you can set up. Okay, so campaign military base, map descriptor. Not going to change anything in there. Campaign sees components. So this here is about whether you want the conflict military base to be captured. Being that it's our HQ, I don't want it to be capturable. Capturable is the right word. I don't want it to be able to be captured. So I'm going to tick the untick the enabled, so it's now disabled. And as you can see here, it's grayed out. So now this military base cannot be captured. You can see here the SCR campaign supplies component is listing your supplies. So what it starts with, the max value will regenerate based on your game mode manager component settings and the operational radius. I'm just going to leave them as default. Coverage radio component. So this here is very important. This transmitting range is the main part that you'll muck around with. And as you can see here, that big dome is your transmitting range. So if I change this to 500 meters, it goes down. So half a K or 1,000 meters for 1K. This is required to link between your starting location and your capture points to be able to enable your team or the team to capture the next point. I'll show you a bit further on when I link it to some of the capture points or control points. And your HQs need to have is source ticked. I think that was a change in 1.2 was required. So the radio signal all starts from your HQ. So you need this is source ticked. Okay, so what else we got? I'm not going to play with any of these settings. It's going to be not assigned to a particular faction. So one faction, this might be US for the first round. The second round might be USSR. It should generally rotate around. I'm not going to change with that. Not going to change any of these settings either. No, I will leave those as defaults. Okay, so now we have our first HQ here. What I'm going to do is just select it, Control C, I'm going to copy it, and I place another one over on this side over here. Again, I'm going to right click and snap to ground just to make sure it's all flat. We now have two HQs and they're running the exact same settings. If you want to check over here on the right hand side, this little cog, if you click on that and go show only modified properties, it will only show you what you have changed from the default value. So in this case, can be HQ, we changed the name and we unticked disable when unused. We unticked enabled, so therefore it's disabled. So the capture point, correction, the HQ can't be captured. Is source we ticked. Okay, so I'm going to set that back to the normal setting. Sweet. Now we have two HQs, but we need to have some capture point or control points. What we're going to do is we're going to copy one of these. And let's see, we're going to paste it here. Again, right click, snap to ground. I'm now going to move this into the control points layer. I'm actually going to set that as active, so anything I paste now will be in here in this layer. Okay, so some of the things we want to change in here, we don't want this to be our HQ. We want this to be a control point though. So a control point is one of the is one of the requirements for winning a round. So you'll see when we go into the actual game, some are black and some are like purple or something along those lines. It's the number of points that need to be won, number of control points that need to be captured to win. So that references back to the game mode manager right here. So game mode manager, control point threshold. So we're going to leave it at 2 because I'm only going to create 2 control points. Okay, so back into the conflict military base 3, which is a control point. Is a control point. We're going to rename this. So we'll call this control point alpha. Awesome. We're going to leave all this as default. Going to leave those as default. We want this to be capturable. So we're going to enable that now. We're going to leave all the supplies as default. We'll come back to this coverage radio component in a second. Yeah, we'll leave all these as default. Okay. So with the capture control points, if I say capture points, it is control points. Just bear with me on that. With the control points and the HQs. So for this HQ here, for it to be linked to this control point, it is required that it be within this dome. So as you can see, I've clicked on the HQ. Transmitting range is 1,000 meters or 1K. So that's 500 meters out. And the capture point needs to be within that dome to be linked in game, and vice versa. It needs the actual capture point needs to be linked back to the HQ to have that signal source to pass through to this next point for it to be capturable. So as you can see, they're now linked, so that's fine. However, if it was a bit smaller, so say this was 800 meters, or maybe it's 600 meters, you can extend this range by building the transmitter tower at the actual capture point. But we're just going to make it easy. These are just going to, whoop, forgot a 0, overlap. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to control C on this control point, and I'm going to paste another one. This now, because it links between the HQ and the next capture point, will work. So say for example, we're starting down here, where we want, once we left our HQ, we want to capture the next point. It is now linked to that point. It's within the dome. The next one is linking back to the original one, and also the range covers to the next capture point. We move to the furthest capture point. It links back to the previous capture point and to the HQ. So now those 4 points are all linked together with a single line moving to here, to here, to here. However, what would change that would be the transmitting tower if it was built at the starting locations, the HQs, or at the capture points, which would then enable one of these HQs to then, if you build a transmitting tower here, it would link to this point. Let me click on the HQ. It would link to this capture point, and then also link to here because the transmitting tower extends the range. I can't remember how much it extends it by. You can probably change that configuration, but it would then link to both. But anyway, let's save this and hit play. Yep, continue. Okay, as you can see, USSR spawning here. There's our first capture point, CP Alpha. Oh, I kept them both the same name. I will quickly change that now. Okay, so we'll just change one of these. Where am I? We'll just change this one to CP Bravo. Awesome, sneaky little save. Okay. Okay, so we're spawning over here. MOB, CP Bravo is the first capture point. CP Alpha is the following. And you can't capture the Russian MOB. Just to confirm it's working, spawn in. Here's the default assets that it spawns in with you. Gonna hold Y to go into Game Master. Press M to bring up my map. Gonna right click, move camera to the first capture point. And I could teleport myself here to enable me to start capturing it, to test it. However, we're just going to speed up the process. Sorry. Don't hit escape. Do that all the time. I'm pretty sure you can disable that. But anyway. Okay, let's try that again. Pressing N, bring my map up. I'm going to right click near CP Alpha, move camera. Going to double click on the military base and change that to US. It has now captured that for me. And I'm going to do the same for the next one. Sweet. Hit play character. And as you can see at the top there, US is now captured two of the capture points, and US Army is winning, and there's that 5-minute countdown timer. And as you can see, when you move your mouse over these points, they link together as they were supposed to. If I place this radio tower, or transmitting tower, where are we? Radio relay station, sorry. I pressed escape. Let me jump back in there and test that again. That escape starts up all the time. I really should change that setting. But anyway, composition, radio relay station, there, player's character. You can now see it has extend the range, and you can then capture both CP Alpha and CP Bravo from this one point. So I don't need to capture Bravo before I go to Alpha like previously. It allows you to capture that CP Alpha straight away. Okay, sweet. So our mission's working. Now I hit escape. Okay, so there's really nothing else we need to do for the basic setup. You can add in, what do you call them, caches around the map. I can't remember the name of the actual caches. Ammo cache. So you can place some of these around the map. You also got to link it up with a, I can't remember the name. It's for the marker to be on the map. Anyway, we won't worry about that. Okay, so we've saved it already. I'm going to close down the world editor, and now we're back here at the mission header. What we're going to do now is we're going to insert some information. So the name of this mission, we're going to call it test conflict. Oh my gosh, typing tonight. Mission. Barzan. Author, you'd put in your own name. Description, just kind of keep it the same. Also, so back up here, if you didn't use the plugin manager and hit create the own header, you can go ahead and create this header yourself. So this SCR mission header campaign, you just go into your missions folder. Let me just save this. Yep, go into your missions folder, right click, config file, name it, and then scroll down to SCR, what's the mission header? Mission header campaign. Sweet. And so this is how you would have multiple scenarios where you now can link this to another world that you've created. So if you have another world, so say you made a different layer, version 2, version 3, you link it to a different version there. But I'm going to delete this one and just continue editing the original. Okay, so it's already linked to the map, to the world, sorry, we've named it, author, and now we've got these here. So these icons, loading screen and preview images, they do need to be changed off the default. the default EDDS files. So what we're going to do is I'm going to import just a couple of ones I generally use. So all you need to do is locate a JPEG file. I'm going to click on images first. Locate JPG and drag it in. As you can see, it imports it down here and converts the JPEG into an EDDS file. So this is going to be my icon, and I'll just grab another one for the loading screen and preview. This one here. Okay, so by default, it imports it. It's not at the best quality. So what you need to do is double click on the EDDS file. On the right hand side, go to import settings. And then on the right here, we want to change the format compressed to best. And then we want to change the color space from 2 linear to sRGB, and then re-import. That's going to now import it with those updated settings. These settings were recommended by Blackheart6, and he seems to know what he's doing, so just doing those, and they've worked so far, so happy with that. I'm going to do the same for the other EDDS file. Import settings, best, sRGB, and then re-import resource. Sweet, they're done. Now I can close those two down. And all I'm going to do is simply click on the EDDS file and drag them across. Done. Okay, so now we're game mode. It is called conflict. We're going to leave it player count 64 for the sake of it. I'm going to untick these. Saving. Do we want to enable saving? Yeah, we'll leave that ticked. What we want to call it? Test. For speed, test, conflict, mission, Barzan, sorry, save. Do we want to override any of these default settings that are from the game mode manager? No, I don't want to. I'm going to leave it as it is. So now I've done that, just going to save again. The next thing to do is to upload to the workshop. Okay, so we're going to get workbench. We're going to go publish to workshop. We want to do a preview image. So, here we go. Barzan remake. We'll just use one of his, one of the mod devs images. Yep, so that's created. Category. This is scenario multiplayer. Tags. I'm just going to put TPM. I haven't gone into too much to do with licensing, so I'm just leaving it at the default. Here's your version. Here's whether it's listed or unlisted or test. So I'm going to leave it as public. Test, test, test. And the description. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's hit publish. It's going to upload. While that's uploading, I am just getting the Reforger workshop web browser. Search TPM. It's not going to do anything. Not going to do anything at all. Oh, sweet. It's still uploading. Come on. It's only 8 meg, you can do it. Sweet. Publishing successful. Okay, so now if I go in here, search TPM. Here we go. Test conflict mission by tpmtactical. Test. Scenario. This is pointing to that mission header we created. So that's the name of it there. The config file, 1.0.0, no changes. So say we come back in here, we want to change a couple of settings. Once we've done that, you save it again and then publish to the workshop. From in here, it automatically puts into the next version 1.0.1 in this case. The previous version was 1.0.0. There was a bug that when it crashed during publishing, that it didn't automatically change this version. So always just double check to make sure it went up to the next version. Change notes. Insert change notes. There's so many mods get published that don't have change notes. It's a bit of an annoyance when people want to find out what has actually changed in your mod. I highly recommend you chucking in change notes there if someone else is going to be using your mod. So if I publish now, republish that massive 8.1 megabytes. And once that's republished, I'll refresh this and then we'll be at version 1.0.1. Okay, how's it going? If you do have any questions, feel free to chuck it in the comments. Feel free to jump in my Discord as well and ask some questions in there. Feel free to like, subscribe. We'd appreciate that as well. Okay. Can't believe it takes this long for an 8 meg file, but anyway, from Australia to wherever the BI servers are located in Europe. Sweet. Let's check here. F5, we're now 1.0.1, and the good old change log information is there. Awesome. So now what I'm going to do, always saving, I'm going to open Reforger, bring up the scenario in game. Might just close this down. Come on, you can do it. Okay, where we got? Here it is, 7.4 megabytes. Let's download that. Awesome. Should be in my scenario. Yep, here it is. Test conflict mission Barzan. Hit play. So there's the details that we've entered earlier. Here's our map. First task is to capture CP Alpha, then CP Bravo. But I can't go into Game Master because this is running locally. It's not set up. Yeah, if you do have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. As I mentioned previously, it'd be awesome if you could like, subscribe, and if you want any other tutorials, simple tutorials made, just let us know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.